Hello and welcome into my latest live stream. My name is Kerry Holzman and welcome into the Kerry Holzman YouTube channel. That was a clever name I came up with, wasn't it? Welcome in everybody. And today I've got a live repair that it is a system sent in to me from a gentleman in New York, and I'll tell you a little bit about this. So here's the way it works. This person I've never met. They've seen my videos. They see I do repairs, and they put together one heck of a system here. I've got all the specs for the system in the video notes below the video, and it's a heck of a system. He's got a ton of hard drives. He's got 4 hard drives in there and a big video card. And I said, look, before you ship this thing to me from New York, let's take those hard drives out. Let's take that video card out, because I don't need that for my diagnosis, and I don't want those things to get damaged in shipping. So what I've done is I put just a spare graphics card I had in here. This is a GTX 550 Ti. So this part is not like the others. Almost every single part, well, not almost, a lot of these parts are a minimum $1,000 or more. You know, 64 gigs of Corsair Vengeance LED RAM, that's about $700. He's got a Core i7, what'd I say it was, 7960 or something, I can't remember anymore. Yeah, 7960X, that's a $1,400 processor all day long. The motherboard's around $300. He's got a lot of, what I'm trying to convey here, he's got a lot of money in the system, a big investment here. A 1300 watt G2 EVGA power supply, those are not cheap, that's about $200. He's got the H115i liquid cooler. He's got a Samsung 970 EVO drive that's kind of sticking up right here. I don't know how well you guys can see that. This is something ASUS does here. And then he's got another M.2 NVMe drive down below the heat. Wait a minute. He's left some plastic on. Yeah, that needs to come off. So the system came in yesterday while Mitch and I were filming the update to, getting the interactive build done. And last night I opened it up and I heard something rattling around in there, and I found there was a loose screw rolling around in there, which I don't know if that was how it was shipped or if that just came loose in shipping. And this bay is loose. I should have instructed him to pull these bays. Everything that adds weight and has a potential for damage needs to come out of the system before shipping it 2,500 miles, across the surface of the United States. It's not going by plane, it's going by a truck. So there's a lot of potential for jarring and potholes and things like that. And when the gentleman brought it to my door, he had it sideways, which ultimately doesn't matter in a system like this, but it just goes to show carrying it sideways for one person is easier because the box is wider if he were carrying it right side up, but it's labeled right side up, the address is on the top. He can't see the address if he's carrying it sideways. So I was a little irritated at that, but it didn't really matter because there's really nothing that can be damaged here unless one of these came out. You see, that one's really stiff, and this one, it's just not in right. So these should have come out before shipping. So if anybody wants to ship their computer to me for repair, we really need to remove anything that is absolutely not part of the equation to reduce the cost of shipping by removing weight and reducing the odds of anything breaking. Now, with that said, I went ahead and ran some basic diagnostics on it. One of the first things I found is the system needs a password to log in. So I reached out to the customer and got that. It was not volunteered. So again, as a tech, you've got to ask all the right questions. I dropped the ball there. That prevented me from doing anything within Windows last night. But what I was able to do was run memtest 86. Now, memtest 86 came up with an error. And I had asked the customer before he sent it to me, did you check the memory and make sure you have the latest BIOS? And he said, yes, he did. Well, I see bad memory. So I pop a couple memory modules out, leave 2 in, take 2 out, run the test again, it passes. Put one of the ones back in that I took out, it passes. Put the other one back in, so I'm back to 4, it passes. So I let it run all night. It takes 10 hours to run through all the tests on memtest 86 4 times, which is what it recommends. And I went to bed. When I woke up this morning, it passed all the tests. So maybe the memory became jostled in shipping. So it doesn't appear to be any issues with the memory. He's getting these random blue screens of death in Adobe Lightroom. And I noticed he's got a sound card here. And I asked him, why did you add the sound card? What's wrong with the, I mean, this is a high-end motherboard. It's got excellent sound. What's wrong with, why did you add that? And he says, well, just because I had it. I had it laying around for 2 years. That's not a good reason, folks. You know, especially when you're getting blue screens and you're trying to you're trying to diagnose a problem, you really want to have as much unnecessary equipment disconnected from the computer as possible. So if you don't need 4 sticks of RAM, if you can get by with 1 just for testing, if you can get by without all the hard drives, if you can get by with just 1 drive, if you can get by without the add-in sound card, pull it. If you can get by without the printer being plugged in, pull it. Pull everything you can pull and see if the system still experiences the symptom that you are trying to resolve. If it is, then you know for a fact nothing you pulled is the cause of it. And that right there cuts your diagnosis time in half. So for all I know, this sound card driver could be causing his blue screen. This is a little frustrating, and I'm sorry I'm in a big hurry, so if I don't seem, I'm not chewing anybody out if it seems that way. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to give you the information as quickly as I can. And let's see, we have a couple of contributions here. Ioannis Veranos contributed €2, and he said, he said, great videos, thank you, appreciate that. And thank you to all my moderators for keeping it civil in the chat. Somebody made a comment that they were leaving because the moderators were coming in. I love to see that. That pleases me, because if somebody can't follow the rules, leaving is the best thing you should do. So that's wonderful. Now, I'm going to show you, the customer sent me some photos of the blue screens, and I want to share those with you right now. I just have to, add the images one by one here. So let's do that right now. I put them here so I would have them. And where did I put them? Right here. Okay. Okay, so here's one of the blue screen errors. And we're really looking down here at the very bottom where it says stop code, WHEA uncorrectable error. This doesn't really tell me much, because this can happen after a blue screen, and then on your first reboot, this is kind of an error message I think we can ignore. I want to know the first blue screen before that one. So let's move to the next one. He sent me a picture of this one. That one says stop code reference by pointer. That's usually an indicator, a pointer in memory. Let's see, Tapayo Kouasmos contributed €2. He says, thanks for a great channel. Thank you, Tapayo. Is it a bad overclock? No, what I did when I got it, I noticed the new BIOS was released on the last day of the month, last month. So perhaps when he checked it, he had the latest, but there was a newer BIOS out before he mailed it. So I went ahead and downloaded that newer BIOS and applied it, and then reset the BIOS to defaults. So there's no overclocking happening right now. Anyway, let's keep moving on here. Let's move to the next error message. Then you got this error right here. This is IRQL not less or equal. This is usually related to a driver. Not always, but it can also be memory. RAM can cause that. Then he got, let's see, then he got memory management error. See, these blue screens are all different. That's usually an indication of bad memory or incompatible memory. Incompatible memory is tricky because it might pass all the tests just fine. And sometimes a BIOS update addresses that and fixes it. Then he sent me this blue screen. This was system service exception. What failed was ntfs.sys. A lot of the mods are mean and will ban you for the smallest thing. No, the mods will not ban you for the smallest thing. The mods will warn you, and then the mods will put you in a timeout, and then the mods will ban you. And by the way, I will do the very same thing. So please don't put down my mods, and I won't put you down. We all follow the same rules here, and if you don't like that, you don't have to stay. It's just being supportive and kind and not using foul language. There are children watching. Be considerate of others. And if you can't show support to people and you can't not say anything, then leave. I mean, it's not that difficult to show some support. If you're just here to challenge people and try to prove how smart you are because you're insecure, we don't we don't need that. I've got that role filled already. All right, so here is another one. You got system thread exception not handled. And this was on DirectX, it appears, if you look at what failed. And then if we go to, let's go to the next one. This is a WHEA uncorrectable error. Again, that usually occurs after a blue screen on the first reboot after a blue screen. So it doesn't, if that was the only blue screen he was getting, that'd be different, but that's not the case here. Then you would see we've got another one of these, and then we've got, I think there's one more right there. Let's take it sideways. Another WHEA. So now, what do you guys think it is? What do you think it is? It appears very random, doesn't it? And he was frustrated. You know, he built the system himself. He had a very fine part selection. Like I said, it got a big financial investment. Got frustrated with it and said, would you fix it if I sent it to you? And here it is, all the way from New York. Now, I have since, as I mentioned, I've run memtest on it. And so what I got originally was a memtest error, which, let's see, got to fit that to the screen. And you'll see it shows 3 errors in red on test 6 and test 7. But then after I reseeded all the memory, it's passing. So if I go back under those properties, and let me browse again to, no, that's not what I wanted. That's the system. That's like I said, the GTX 550 Ti is just what I have thrown in there so I can run it. There's no onboard video on this motherboard. So his graphics card is a 1080, and like I said, all the parts are listed in the video notes below the video. And I think that's all I have right now to show you. So I do have the test results on my phone, the mem test, but you can just trust me. It flied through, well, didn't fly through. It took 10 hours, and there were no errors on 4 iterations of 13 tests done 4 times. So it doesn't seem to be memory, but it could be a compatibility. So now let's take a look at what your suggestions are. And because let's face it, we have some very smart people watching. We see check the video card driver. Absolutely. Although it's NVIDIA, it's pretty standardized. Thomas Carter thinks it could be a bad motherboard. Elliot Challenger thinks it's RAM or motherboard or CPU or hard drive or SSD. What about the power supply? Could it be that? Could it be bad case metal? Space Ghost says bad motherboard. Chris Kane says memory. John McLaughlin says I'm going to go with a sound card driver. Nicholas is just blaming Windows. It's not Windows. Too many people run Windows without a problem. So it's something that this customer has added to Windows, or some flaw in the hardware or compatibility issue with the hardware, because Windows is proven to run stable, no problems. So Joseph Neal says sound card driver. Al Perez says it will be a hard drive. Well, we're not booting off a hard drive, we're booting off M.2, but it still could be some sort of corruption in Windows 10. It's possible. Ideally, more likely, I mean, it's probably something that was added into Windows 10 that caused this instability, if it's not a hardware-related issue. Someone thinks the computer is getting too hot. We can certainly check the temps and run Prime 95 and see if this cooler is doing its job. I will say the fans on this H115i are very loud. I asked the customer if he would consider maybe changing those out for Noctuas. He said the noise doesn't bother him, but the Noctua fan sounds like a good idea. And the problem is he's getting the errors in Lightroom, so I'm not quite sure how I can put a new hard drive in temporarily to test it. I need another way to get it to blue screen. Hardy says, remove the cooler and look at the CPU. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. Peter Brooks thinks it's a bad combobulator. Could be right. Jivraj says, I had the same problem and it was the motherboard. Mahai thinks it's bad RAM or a bad driver. Ask for a pic of the CPU box. Sometimes it says what memory is compatible. I've never heard of such a thing in my life. You could certainly go to the motherboard manufacturer's website and look under the quality vendor list of RAM that's been tested and verified to work with the motherboard. That information does not come from the CPU manufacturer. That comes from the motherboard manufacturer. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. Norm Lewis thinks it's got gremlins. Conrad thinks it's RAM. Adam Sleeth says Windows or driver corruption. John Senchek thinks it's video related. Malcolm Crabb thinks there's an IRQ conflict with the sound card and the DirectX driver. Not likely. Possible, not likely. Jaxta says you should just read the dump files. I wasn't able to get into Windows at all last night. I only got the password this morning and I haven't turned the machine on other than running memtest from a bootable USB. So we can certainly look at those log files to see if they shed any light on this. Yes, it's strange. Well, we don't know for a fact that it's only on Adobe Lightroom, but we know that it is. Perhaps that's the thing where he's in when it happens. Perhaps by running Prime 95 long enough, maybe we can cause it to crash. Okay, Dave Harkin says use a free program called Blue Screen View. It will tell you which item or driver is causing the blue screen. I'll believe that when I see it. I'll try it, but I've never met a piece of software that does that was any good. It might get it once out of every 10 times, but I've never found any software like that to be reliable, but I'll stay open-minded towards it. When did the problem start occurring? Pretty much since he built it. It never, from my understanding, it never ran correctly from the get-go. So Mark Cresswell's contributed £5. He says, whatever it is, you'll fix it. Well, I'll fix it. Customers running too many pirated programs. See, that's not even funny to me. What I have found is when somebody drops $4,000 to $5,000 on their rig, that's not the kind of person that pirates software. The kind of person that pirates software is a guy with a $600 to $800 rig or less. The cheaper the rig, the more indication the person doesn't have money and justifies their theft. This would be highly unusual. It'd be like having a big screen TV and not having cable television, or not having an antenna on it. What's the point? So, well, it's possible. It's just not likely. He forgot the cooling compound. The thermal compound is already on the bottom of the cooler from the manufacturer, but we can check it. Again, we shouldn't assume anything. Never assume anything. But we do want to we want to invest our time wisely as to what's most likely. Right? You can shatter your brain thinking about what's possible. It's possible a meteor comes out of the sky and strikes me in the head, but it's not probable. So you don't need to spend a lot of time or anxiety worrying about something so unlikely. So the idea here is to consider your options. The very first step would be to replicate the error. Once we're able to replicate the error, we need to isolate if it's hardware or software. And that's generally done by reinstalling the operating system. But as I mentioned, if I reinstall the operating system, I have no way to reinstall Lightroom, although I can talk to the customer about that. But if I can make the error occur in Prime 95 or some other application, I don't have to erase his hard drive. I can install a temporary drive, put Windows 10 clean install on it, and then do the same steps to that caused a blue screen outside of Lightroom if that happens. And that would help immensely in diagnosing it. But these intermittent problems, whether they're about your health, they're about your car, or they're about your computer, they're profoundly difficult to diagnose. It takes patience. Just running the mem test on this took over 10 hours, just over 10 hours. You can imagine if you're a computer technician and you only have a spot on your bench for one computer, you can't work on anything else while that's happening. In my case, I went to bed. So, and that was with intention. I knew I wanted to run that last night because I knew it was going to take a long time, and the results will be patient and wait for me indefinitely. It'll just stay on the screen until I have it. So the computer's very patient, and you know, you just adjust your schedule accordingly, or you get a big bench that you can put numerous computers on, so you can be working on numerous things simultaneously to optimize and make the most amount of money and help the most amount of people in the fastest amount of time possible. The problem I have with that personally is I forget what I did to one machine. Did I do it? Did I clean the temp files off of that one, or did I clean them off of that one? So you almost need like a checklist when you start getting that busy. And I did have a checklist printed many years ago, but now I've slowed down considerably the amount of work I'm taking in. But clearly, you know, just from evidence on this channel, for the people who think that the repair industry is dead, what's all this? What version of Lightroom is running on the system? I don't know until I get the system into Windows. Like I said, I haven't done that yet. I'll be doing that here momentarily. But somebody's complaining I don't read their messages. But isn't it weird that they're not? So a lot of messages fly by my screen. You have to understand. I don't see every message. Telling me I'm not seeing your message is the message Murphy's Law says I'm going to see. You just wasted your opportunity to get my attention by telling me you're not getting my attention, which wasted both of our times. If your message isn't getting through, repeat it. Don't complain about it, because all I'm going to see is your complaint. I'm not seeing the thing you want me to see. Think about what you're doing here, folks. Help me to help you, and understand we've got 756 people watching, and I want everybody to participate, and I will do my best to address all the things that I can see when I glance over. There's about a 90-second delay from when I talk to when you hear me. So we're offset by that. So when you see me sort of reading the chat room, you're seeing that 90 seconds after it happened. My back may already be turned and working by the time you retype. So you need to just sort of figure out the rhythm here. And of course, you can always email me directly. If you're a contributor to the channel, you can email me directly for that personal support. But I want to remind you that we have a lot of smart people here in the chat, and you shouldn't be ignoring their advice. I wouldn't, and I don't. In fact, I just didn't, did I? And they certainly can see what you're typing, even when I can't. This idea that it has to be me, that's what people pay for. Kelly Stewart's contributed $10, and he says, I just donated TechVets. Oh, I donated to TechVets $30 for you. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate your contribution. Anybody comes in, you don't have to ask what you've missed. The DVR function is on. You just roll back the video like you would any other video. Thank you. And let's get this thing fired up and let's see what's going on. This is a Corsair 760T case. He's got an LG Blu-ray reader in there. He's left the plastic on it, which is actually a good thing, so it won't get marked up in shipping. Not on this side, but he left it on the side that doesn't matter. That's okay. That's all right. It arrived fine. He had the original box for it still, which is ideal when you're shipping it. And like I said, he chose some really good parts here. But I will say that when you're building a computer, if you go really, really cheap, or you go really, really high end, you're opening up an opportunity for problems. Right down the middle, sort of the thing most people use, not only gives you better value for the dollar, but it typically is more trouble-free. When you go nickel and diming everything down to the least amount of money, so you got a $500 budget, you're going to have computer problems, almost guaranteed, right from the get-go. It's going to be difficult to get it up and running. If you have any support issues, the companies are generally not very responsive because there's no money in it. On the other hand, when you go top dollar and all high-end components, there's simply not as many of them out there. They don't get the type of usage that you know, in sheer numbers wise, the amount of population that uses a system of this caliber. And as such, it's far more complex by its very design. And it's a bit finicky, right? I mean, if you're driving a Ferrari at 200 miles an hour, the slightest move of the steering wheel can cause you to crash and burn. Everything gets sort of more sensitive the more high-end you go, and everything has to be aligned just right on these really high-end systems. There's a lot of times where I simply won't build a system like this because I don't want to support it. I know how finicky that they can be. They're finicky about their RAM, they're finicky about the heat issues, they're finicky about drivers, and we're talking high-end. The Threadripper stuff, the X299 and X99 stuff, if you had three systems, if you had a Threadripper, a regular Core i5 or AMD Ryzen, and then you had the Core i9 or any other X299, those really expensive systems are the finicky ones that are, if you're going to have a problem out of the three, statistically speaking, from my experience, your problems will be based on how much you spent. The more you spent, when you hit 3,000 and above on a single computer, I'm telling you, you're on bleeding edge technology here that's running right on the edge. It's literally on the edge. There's no wiggle room. On the baseline gaming systems that run, let's say under $2,500, using regular consumer grade Intel Core i3, i5, i7s, or Ryzen Phenom, those chips, those have more headroom for error. They have more tolerance, more wiggle room for overhead. It's a wider platform that they're walking on versus a tightrope on these high-end systems. And I just want to tell you that so you set your expectations accordingly. They are very, very sensitive, and as such, you've got to make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed when you work on these, because they simply will crash if anything is off by just a smidge. Okay. Tweaks has contributed $5 Canadian. Thank you for that, Tweaks. Yeah, you could be a mod. Remember, mod status is earned. It's nothing entitled. I expect you to follow the rules of the mods. Do not abuse your mod power. It will be revoked. Treat others as you would like to be treated. Make me proud. My mods always make me proud. So don't be an exception. All right. So I've got the wireless dongle here. Let me plug this in. I've got power plugged in, dongle's plugged in, and my video card. I need a DVI, which I already have set up. We'll plug that in, and let's get this bad boy booted up. Yeah. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Let's come over here, hit this power switch. I gotta turn the power switch on the back of the power supply. Let's turn this on, and let's go ahead and take this panel off of here so you guys can see what's going on. Come on. There it is. Let me just put this back here where it won't get scratched. There we go. It should be booting up. Here's a beep. Latest BIOS is installed. RAM has been tested and passed. Do I charge customers for repairs by the hour or the job? The videos that, the computers that you're seeing people ship from out of state, those are repaired free of charge. The customer would need to provide any parts if they're needed, and the customer needs to pay for the shipping in both ways. The only money I make will be from whatever super chat contributions and whatever little tiny money YouTube gives me. Although that little tiny money, over a period of 12 to 24 months can add up to more than I would charge to repair it. Of course, on the other hand, it could add up to less than I would charge. It's just risky. It's just how I do it. I consider what I do a community service, and if you want your computer looked at by me, you can make arrangements with me. That's the process. If you're here, even local in Arizona, with a repair where you don't necessarily have to deal with shipping fees, we'll have to talk about it. Basically, a system like this is going to cost about $140 each way. So he's already got $280, close to $300 invested just in the shipping costs. And ideally, everything should be under warranty if we need to replace anything. But if he wants to change these two fans out, that's going to cost him. And it's going to cost him the same if I do it or he does it. So it doesn't matter to me. I'm happy to do it while I've got it if he wants to order the parts. And I made that recommendation to him to just take advantage of me and have me do this for him. Just order the fans and have them shipped to me and I'll put them in. And he is considering that. But it makes no difference. I just think it's loud. If it doesn't bother him, it's fine with me. So before some of you guys have a cow with regards to the graphics card, I told the customer not to ship me as 1080 Ti because it could break in shipping. So I'm just using a spare graphics card. You see, when you're a technician, you're not interested in impressing your friends. When you're a real working technician, you need spare parts you know are good in order to properly and quickly diagnose and repair a system. So, you know, get over yourself. Now, $300, yeah, $300 for shipping. The cost for me to go to New York or for the customer to come to Arizona from New York would take about 3 days of straight driving. You'd need probably 2 to 3 nights in a hotel at least $100 a night, at least $50 a night. Then you've got the gas. It's going to cost $300 to $400 just in travel fees to come out here. So it's one of the least expensive ways to travel 2,500 miles across the United States. It's very reasonable. Now, I would always advise people, remember, I'm not making any money on it other than the super chat contributions and what YouTube pays me. So I always advise people, especially when they live on the East Coast, find somebody local. That reduces your overall cost in transportation. It reduces the odds of any damage caused in transportation. And it also helps for any future or related problems. You have to understand, I need to get this right before I send it back. There's a lot of my reputation riding on the line when I ship a computer to South Carolina or heck, even Louisiana or Oregon, which is, you know, Oregon's on the West Coast, but it's still quite a distance and it's almost impossible for me to offer any support outside of remote assistance, and something like this isn't going to be fixed remotely. So, you know, I can't see the blue screens when they happen and such. So it's very important to me that I get it right the first time. And it's very important to my customer that they didn't just waste all that money and time waiting for the shipping back and forth and waiting for me to fix it and then paying for that. So there's a lot of pressure on me to get it right quickly, get it right cheaply, and get it right the first time. So let's take a look here. Did I miss a contribution? It looks like I did. Carl Curtin has contributed 10 euros. He says, you're absolutely killing it with the vlogs lately. Yeah, it's been really, really busy. You're not seeing half of what I do. In fact, I ran 5 errands today before I started this video. So it's a little crazy, a little hectic. But I'm not bored. I'm not bored. All right, let me take a quick look here. Let's see if we can sign into this customer's computer. I'm going to just block the view so you don't see the password. Oh, we got Apple iCloud. We don't need that. Let's cancel that. We can't access your OneDrive folder. I don't want to access OneDrive, and I don't see any way. It just says try again or set up OneDrive. I don't want either one of those. Let's go to Task Manager, and let's just close out OneDrive. We'll just end the task on that. Get it out of here. Okay, so here's the customer's desktop. I can't see anything. There it is. All right, so, oh, Platter Jockey's contributed $10. He says, hey, Kerry, you do great work teaching us. I always learn something. Once again, the difference between my channel and other tech channels is those other tech channels, for the most part, the big popular ones, they're just tech enthusiasts. They don't hold any accountability or liability to anything they say or do or recommend other than to themselves. I'm held accountable for this. I'm responsible for it, and I'll be responsible for it after the customer gets it back. So you're unlikely to see those tech enthusiasts actually do any real work for a real customer. They do work for themselves. And you know, if they screw up, it's just their own issue. If I screw up consistently, I'm out of business. So I can't afford to screw up. And all I'm doing is I'm turning a camera on to show you what you can expect if you ever want to become a technician. This is the kind of work you can expect customers are going to bring to you. Not the kind of stuff you see on these tech channels where they're delitting or swapping heat spreaders or making custom cooler. Generally, no customers and certainly no corporations will ever pay you to do that in the real world. That's all hobbyist stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not opposed to it, but there is a difference between why I make my videos and why they make theirs. So anyway, my whole thing here is to teach, is to share the experience with you and to set your expectations appropriately. If this is a career field you're interested in going in, you absolutely can. You're not too dumb. Most of the people that do this kind of work, I have to fix after they're done with it. So hopefully, and don't get me wrong, there's people better than me. I'm not saying I'm the best. I'm not the best. I've got a lot of experience, and that benefits me against somebody who has less experience. But it does feel like the majority of people out there doing this have no clue what they're doing, because I see a lot of stuff that I'm not the first person who looked at it, right? But if they did if you think about this, if they did fix it, then I never know about it. So my conclusion is, because I see so many where the stories are, you know, it was brought to a shop, they misdiagnosed it, they didn't know what they were doing. That's what I hear constantly. And the guys that do it right, I never hear about those guys. So if you want to get into this field, I hope that you take the advice I'm giving you, adapt it to fit your personality and your, however you want to make it yours, and then do work that makes me proud. Okay. Let's take a quick look here at what's going on. I see he's got a Cronus in here. He's got Samsung Magician software in here. So clearly, he's a viewer that follows the advice I give, right? Which is the Samsung Magician software and a Cronus. You see me use that all the time because it's good. He's got the IQ software for the cooler. Let's bring that up. It recognizes the RAM. That's interesting. And then it recognizes the pump. Temp number 1. Where's the temp? Not quite sure. There's our system info. That's our CPU. What's going on with that? We're at 24 degrees Celsius, only an 8% load. You know, there's nothing here that indicates anything wrong with the heat. And I'm reluctant to even start there because it seems so unlikely. So many people on the internet that communicate about computers are so unhealthily infatuated and obsessed about heat and thermal compound. I seriously think they should be on some medication, because in reality, heat is rarely ever a problem with computers. It's very rare that you run into it. It does happen. It's very rare. So I see all these hundreds or thousands of people in forums and Facebook groups and Reddit, and they're all talking about getting their temps lower, but nothing about any problem they're trying to solve. They just have this really unhealthy obsession with temps. It's a very bizarre psychological behavior, almost an illness, And I want to caution you against listening to people rant on or go on about thermal compounds, thermal compound application, delidding, and coolers, because most of that stuff is for extremists. And if you consider yourself an extremist, well then, that's different. But I don't think most of us do. Most of us don't have the money or the time to afford to be an extremist. I don't need to buy mountain climbing gear for Mount Everest if I'm just hiking a hill down the street. I don't need to listen to the advice from the guy who hikes Mount Everest on how to be prepared. It doesn't apply to me unless I'm going to hike Mount Everest, right? And so that's what happens. Apparently, when people talk about thermal compound and cooling, they have this really strange obsession that has no basis or precedent for or justification for existing. They're not fixing anything. They're looking for a problem, and then they're potentially damaging the computer trying to fix something that's not broken, that's running within its operational parameters. It's weird. It's just weird. And I'm just warning you of those people, okay? So you do what you want, but you've been warned. So I'm not gonna worry too much about heat right now. What I'm curious about though is just making this blue screen reoccur. So let me see if I can bring up Lightroom. Let's just start with Lightroom. By the way, this is the first Core i9 I've ever worked on. I've never seen one before today, but I'm not worried or bothered because they're all pretty much the same. Computers all more or less run the same since the very first computer I got, my old TRS-80 Model 1 back in 1984. They're still the same. There's some differences with things, you know, you do learn a little bit here and there, but it's building on a foundation of already established knowledge of how a computer reacts and responds, and that doesn't change because you've got a Ryzen or because you've got a Core i9 or because you've got a Core i3 or because you've got an Apple, or none of that matters. They all operate on the same principles. So the customer will probably play around with overclocking. I did ask if that's why the liquid cooler was on there. I think because of the case window, he's really going after some looks. This RAM is just white LED. It doesn't change color. And you pay extra for that. So clearly this person cared about the lights and they were willing to pay more money to have the lights. But I will tell you, and you guys have seen it happen on this very channel, where the RGB software that controls the lights on the motherboard, ASUS's RGB lighting software, caused blue screen errors on the latest version of Windows that I had to figure out on a brand new build. And it turned out, because Windows had just been, you know, it was like Redstone 4, 1803 had just been released, I think, that the RGB software had not yet been updated to accommodate that. Or I take it back, it was updated, but I installed it off the driver DVD, which had an older version, and it caused a blue screen error. Isn't that a really stupid reason to have to diagnose a problem because of a blue screen for RGB lighting? It's, again, it's your decision to make. I come from a corporate environment. Time is money. Nobody in the corporate environment will pay you for that. They just won't pay you for that. Okay. License key error. Norton security is not active because you've disabled your subscription for this device. Good. I'm fine with that. Sign-in is required. Apparently it's just a trial of Adobe Lightroom, and it's going to require a sign-in, or we can sign in with Google or Facebook. I don't know how he signed in, so I'll tell you what, I'm not going to do that right now. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my little handy-dandy trusty flash drive, which has my utilities on it. You guys should start recognizing this about now. And let's run Prime 95 and HW Info. Let's monitor the temps. You're probably going to hear these fans ramp up. They get pretty loud. And let's see if we can get this thing to just crash on us just from burdening it, just to determine if it's only Lightroom that's doing it. So let's do that. That's a good place to start. And then while it's doing that, we can also go and look at the logs. How come I'm not seeing the flash drive? There we go. There it is. All right, so let's do Crystal Disk Mark. Let's do CPU-Z. Let's do HW Info, and let's do where's Prime 95? Oh, it's under PC testing. I'll just grab the whole folder. And let's just copy all of that so it'll run fast. It runs faster off the desktop than it does off the flash drive. So I'm gonna just copy that onto the desktop so we can unplug the flash drive and run straight off the desktop for performance reasons. I'll just take a minute here. My PC testing folder has some graphics tests like 3D Mark and stuff that take a minute to copy that we actually don't need. But it's quicker for me to copy it than to deselect it. I'll just copy it. We're getting there. It's going to take just a minute, guys. Oh, apparently it's just loaded the graphics driver, so the screen just, everything shrunk down. So in the background, Windows was apparently loading the driver for that video card. Which is good, much better. All right, so these are the items I've just copied over right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and start, let's get HW Info running first. So let's start that, we'll run. And then let's start Prime 95, which I have right here, and we'll run that. Just stress testing, click OK, and now all of, wow, that's a lot of threads. Holy smoke, that's a lot of threads. Wow, okay, wow. Let's go to the sensors, and we can see the temps of what's going on here. Here's our clock at what's going on here. Sensor warning. It's found an embedded controller sensor from which it can report data. Reading data from this sensor can cause a higher system load or latency, which can result in occasional performance drops. On some systems, this can also have an impact on system stability. These effects are system specific and not likely to occur on most systems. It's also recommended to use other applications able to read the data from the sensor along with HW Info, as this can cause a conflict. So not to use other applications at the same time. So we'll continue. It's referring to the sensors on the liquid cooler. And let's drop down to temps here. Usage is 100% across all the cores. So you can see how many cores this has. If you go straight down from here all the way down, these are all the cores. So you got 16 real cores and 16 hyperthreads for a total that appears to be 32. And now we can look at our temps here. So this is our current temp down this line, our minimum temp down this line, and our maximum temp down this line. And then this distance to throttling, we can ignore everything from here down. We're not interested in that. We're just interested from here to here. So current temps now are 47 degrees, 48 degrees, pretty much all the way down the line. 45 to 48 degrees Celsius all the way down the line. And let's just let that run for a little while and see how that pans out. Okay. If you're just joining, welcome into the channel. This is a live video diagnostic and hopefully repair of this customer's built system, which contains all the parts listed in the video notes below this video. If you're curious what CPU, what RAM, what motherboard, what graphics card. This is not the customer's graphics card, it is mine. I'm using it for testing. The customer mailed this system into me from New York, and so we took all the spare hard drives out, we took the graphics card out, because those are things likely to be damaged. If anything's going to be damaged, mechanical drives and big heavy video cards, traveling that distance and back again when I return it. It doesn't sound like it would have anything to do with the blue screen he's getting, and since NVIDIA cards all basically use the same driver, more or less, I'm just going to use a spare old GTX 550 Ti I had laying around. And then once we get it resolved, then I'll take it back out. I normally would even be happy using onboard video, but the Core i9 doesn't offer that. The BIOS is currently up to date, and the RAM has passed a 10-hour test of MemTest 86, and the RAM has passed that test. That was all done last night. And the BIOS was reset to defaults. Samson Sam says, "Hi Kerry, I'm new to your channel and I like what I see here." Well, welcome in, Sam. Everybody who likes it is certainly welcome. Do you have any newer GPUs that have HDMI out? This graphics card does have HDMI out, but it's mini HDMI, and my connector to go from mini to regular is too wide to fit. I spent $50 on cables last night at Amazon to get VGA to DVI, VGA to HDMI, HDMI to DVI, DVI to VGA. I got a slurry of just different cables so that I can plug directly in. But because this is a customer's system and it's got his personal information on there, I'm intentionally standing in front of the screen and I'm intentionally blocking a lot of stuff for the customer's privacy, just out of kindness. You would want me to do it if it's yours, more than likely. All you people, you're the same people, by the way, who complain about Windows 10 spying and then complain because you can't spy on this customer's personal information. Think about what you're asking. But when appropriate, I do hook it up to the video capture card, usually like new builds and where customers are like, you know, they've sort of prepped the computer for me and they've hidden all their stuff. But I've got to be very careful about that. So I appreciate your consideration about that. So right now we're looking at, looks like 51 to 52 degrees Celsius. We haven't climbed any higher than that so far. Well, no, I take it back. The maximum we've hit so far is 54. Hit 54 a couple of times on a couple of cores, but it's really, really low. Did you hear that? I don't know how that doesn't drive him crazy. Yeah, it's cranking now. Theofi has contributed 10 pounds. He says, you're the man. I'd rather listen to you and not be confused by hype, advertisement, and sponsorship. Keep it real. Keep it up. Thank you, Theofi. I appreciate that. That's what I do here. There's no sponsorship. You might get little banner ads. I have no control over that. Everything's just, I'm just a real tech doing real work, and the camera is a fly on the wall so you guys can see what it's like, because these other tech channels, these big tech channels, don't really give you a clue as to what it is to be a technician. But if you enjoy sort of impractical things that bring enjoyment from the exercise or puzzle or challenge of doing it, you know, those channels certainly have value there. But I don't want you to conflate what those big tech YouTubers do to what real working technicians do. There's very little in common. So that's what motivates me to make this, continue to make these videos. And as you can see, the repair business is far from dead. You don't get to see everything I work on. A lot of customers, most customers, don't want their computers shown on camera, and they don't want the potential for anything on their screen to be shown, especially businesses where there's a lot of proprietary business information and customer data that could be exposed. So what you're seeing is just a scratch on the surface of what I do for a living. And when you listen to somebody say there's computer repair is dead, so what am I? How is that possible? Yeah, that power supply has a 10-year warranty on it, the EVGA 1300 G2. And again, you can look in the video notes below the video to see all the parts that are part of the original build versus what you're seeing here. And again, because the system was shipped from New York to Phoenix and it'll have to be shipped back from Phoenix to New York, items most likely to break in shipping are hard drives and video cards. And because the problem isn't likely caused by those items, I asked the customer to remove them. It also reduces the weight, which reduces the cost of shipping, reduces the odds of damage. Everybody's happy. Yeah, these fans are just crazy loud. That noise is the refrigerator ice maker. It'll shut off right there. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this. I usually like to disconnect properly, but I'm getting bold in my old age. I have lots of flash drives now, so if I kill one, I kill one. But you should properly disconnect them before you remove them if you care about them. Clearly, I don't care about it. So we're not seeing any crash yet. We're at temps hitting 63 degrees Celsius. We're climbing. 64 appears, no. 60, yeah, no, yeah. 64, we hit it once on one core so far, on core number 3. 65 now. So we're just gonna keep letting it run. If you look in the video notes of all of the hardware that's actually in the machine that the customer removed, I think you'll better understand why the power supply of this size was selected. Although this is enough for 2 graphics cards, honestly. They did go a little overkill on it, but they also have a lot. I think they got 4 hard drives, which individually don't take that much power, but it's still a lot of stuff that has to be cabled up. And you'll see all the SATA plugs are all connected, all 6 of them. Well, out of 8, because I think 2 are disabled through the NVMe using both, I think, I don't know. But he's obviously just left the data cables in there, so when he gets it back home in New York, he can just plug his drives back in, easy peasy. But yeah, it'd be kind of stupid to mail those drives and pay for that shipping and risk damaging them when they have nothing at all to do with this particular problem. For hard drives, they need a NAS. I agree. I do agree. Is the all-in-one making any noise? The fans are making noise. If he changes these fans out, I suspect the noise, you know, if he goes with like Nashua 140 millimeter fans, I think it'll quiet it right down. The Corsair fans here on the case, these LED fans that are blue up here in the front, these are dead silent. There's no problem here. But these are this is what you're hearing right now. Could be something on the graphics card. No, the graphics card's quiet. So it's these two fans that's making all the racket, not the pump. Did the computer go to sleep? Screen went to sleep? Let's get that back on there. Let me go into power options and change that so it won't do that to me. Everything else looks good. So far, still maximum temp is 65 degrees Celsius. That hasn't changed much. We'll let this run a few more minutes. Carrie, do you have a website? You're looking at my website right now. It's possible it could be the SSD. It's possible a meteor could fall out of the sky and hit me in the head. Chances are, based on life experience, that's not likely going to happen. Based on life experience, it's not likely the SSD. When you're, let me give you the best tip I can give you when you're doing any kind of repair. Always check the easy, most likely things first before letting your imagination run wild on you and making you a technical hypochondriac. It's doubtful there's anything related to the SSD. Now, I could embarrass myself and at the end of this find out it is, but in actual, you know, almost 30 years of experience of fixing computers, I'd say a good 90%, 9 out of 10 times, the problem is something obvious and simple. You just have to, you know, look at the obvious and most likely things first. Don't waste your time going after some little possible thing that has no precedent. When I say no precedent, I mean I can't recall an SSD ever causing a blue screen error ever in my entire life. So there's no reason for me to go, that's the first thing I'm going to check. I mean, you can if you want to. That's not the way I do it. Jay Hilton's contributed £5. He says, keep it up, Kerry. Love the work. I just built my parents a brand new computer and now I'm starting on my own. Awesome. He says, you're a genuine inspiration. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for your contribution. I really appreciate it. And good for you, you know, I'm proud of you. You make me proud. When the people who watch my channel actually utilize what I'm teaching them, and by the way, you're allowed to take what I'm teaching you and manipulate it and change it so it fits your personality. I am not offended by that. What offends me are people who want to challenge me. You know, you can go start your own YouTube channel. I'm not stopping you. There's no reason to challenge me. I've been doing this for a long, long time. As far as I know, you've done nothing. You know, if you don't have any videos and you haven't published any books and you haven't hosted any nationwide radio talk shows, but you're going to tell me, there's an old expression, don't let anybody who's done nothing tell you how to do anything. So, you know, anonymous cowards hiding behind fake names telling me I don't know what I'm talking about is laughable. And the internet's filled with these characters. So, you know, I can't tell by looking at some bizarre name on the screen if you're actually someone with, you know, equivalent experience or if you're just a 12-year-old with nothing else better to do. So I have to do my job anyway. And I just don't appreciate being challenged because it's preposterous. I don't have to give out this information for free. So why would you challenge it? Michael C's contributed £5. Hey, Michael, thank you for the contribution. Yeah, we're still not seeing any crashing here. So what I might have to do, you know, before I can even begin to try and fix this, I need to replicate the problem. I need to be able to make the problem happen. If I'm unable to make the problem happen, I have no way to know if I fixed it. I'm just guessing at this point. And anybody can do that. There's no reason to go through the expense and time and effort of sending me the system for me to guess. Jazz Sinclair says, I finally got my 1080 Ti. It's an EVGA. It's wonderful. I bet it is. Can you use so-called diagnostic cards to check the error code? If diagnostic cards actually worked, there would be no reason to be a technician. If your idea of fixing problems is to plug in a piece of computer technology that tells you how to fix it, why don't you just have the computer fix it? Let the computer diagnose itself and let the computer repair itself. Because it's not possible. Computers can't think with judgment. Computers can only spit back out what they've been told. Most diagnostics don't make any sense. So a computer, which is a very logical device, cannot tell you what's wrong with it. Those postcards, in my opinion, are a complete waste of money, and they undermine what it means to be a technician. You simply cannot replace experience with a piece of hardware. We haven't become that advanced of a civilization yet, and I doubt we'll see it in my lifetime. If you think running a postcard is a solution, you should probably not fix your own computers and take it to somebody who can. Christoph Esch has contributed €5. Carrie, what is our guess? What is wrong with it? I don't know right now. I have to see the problem, and so far I haven't seen it. I need to see the problem before I can offer up any ideas that would mean anything. They're completely baseless. You might as well just say anything. You can pick any component and say it could be that, and you could be right. I have nothing to base that on. Eric has contributed $5 US. $5 Canadian. Thank you, Eric. Thanks for your contribution. Nelson says he's contributed $10. Thank you, Nelson. Carrie, is XMP enabled, or did you reset the BIOS to default? I reset the BIOS to default. This is when artificial intelligence comes into play. My experience is it's actually artificial ignorance. I've never seen artificial intelligence. I've only seen artificial ignorance. And even then, I'm not sure how artificial it is. It felt pretty real to me. It's still AI. Jazz Sinclair says, when I was contracted to the Department of Navy, we had a bizarre issue where Microsoft Excel was showing all kinds of red X's on it and spreadsheets, and the solution turned out to be a LaserJet 3 printer driver. Yeah. Yeah. Delta 6138 has contributed $1.99. Thank you, Delta 6138. And William McKinney has contributed $2. And thank you for that contribution, William. Yeah, we're going to pull up, let's go ahead and pull up the event log now. I've been sort of into the chat and not really thinking about it. With so many components removed, it's hard to get the same blue screen of death. Absolutely not. In fact, the components removed are highly unlikely. It's like saying with so many satellites being removed from the sky, the odds of being hit by a meteorite are lower now than they were. They weren't high to begin with. The odds of that happening were like next to zero. I would not tell a customer with 30 years of experience to take out components that could potentially be causing the problem. His drives and his video card are not likely the source. It's possible, but the odds of that are incredibly slim. Yet the odds of those components being damaged in shipping and the odds of having to pay more for the added weight back and forth, that's almost guaranteed. So let's be reasonable, people. You're second guessing somebody with almost 30 years of experience in the industry. You might just, before you challenge me, you might just think for a moment, maybe he knows something I don't know. Is that possible? Am I asking too much? Kerry, you're so unreasonable. 30 years, come on, I've been on the internet for 5 years. I know as much as you. Yeah, you probably do. Michael McAllister's contributed $2. What is the customer doing when the blue screen occurs? He's in Lightroom, which I cannot bring up right now. It requires a sign-in. So I may have to get on the horn with the customer and find out. Was he using a RAID setup? No. All right, so I was going to look at logs, wasn't I? Let's see. Let's go to the control panel. And let's see, administrative tools. Event viewer. All right, what does the event viewer say? Windows logs, application logs. Well, that's taking a while to load. There they go. Let's see if we can't make this bigger. Well, Bonjour service from Apple is giving us a lot of grief. Application error in Far Cry 4. Faulting module is fc64.dll, so that's Far Cry. He didn't say anything to me about Far Cry. Another application error. This is the the Intel IA Store Data Manager Service.exe. Faulting module is ISDI2. That could be something to look into. That's maybe an updated storage controller driver, because that could certainly cause us issues. We got an Office 2016 licensing service cannot be found. We've got a warning on the restart manager with Office 16 again, 2016. Another Office 2016, but these aren't blue screens. These are warnings, more Windows error reporting. Windows update failure, Windows update failure, Windows update failure, Windows update failure. Office 2016 application error, again on the IA Store Data Manager Service, version 5301412. We'll have to see if there's a newer version of this IA Store or whether or not that's just normal. I've seen Norton Internet Security cause these issues too, which he's got on here. Hello? This whole thing just froze. What just happened? Okay, we're back. You don't know what it did there. Let's keep going. Errors, application error. Again, IA Store. Licensing. Let's go over to system. Let's see what we have here for errors in the system area. This is all today. Let's scroll down. Let's go back a little ways. Warnings, warnings. Here's an error. Bug check. Computer has rebooted from a bug check. The bug check dump was saved in this file. Okay, it tells me nothing. Critical. System is rebooted without clearly shutting down first. That was a month ago. This could be caused if the system stopped responding, crashed, or lost power unexpectedly. Another unexpected shutdown. The application-specific permission settings do not grant local activation permission for the COM server with CLSID, blah, blah, blah. That's the distributed COM. I'm not too worried about that. Same thing. Same thing. Same thing. Warning, the local adapter does not support an important low energy controller state to support peripheral mode. The minimum required supported state mask, low energy peripheral role functionality will not be available. Don't care. Look at all these errors. Holy smokes. Server did not register with a decom within the timeout period. Just the same thing over and over again. Wow, a lot of it. The Intel Rapid Storage Technology Enterprise Services terminated unexpectedly, and yet none of the blue screen errors pointed to that at all. So, you know, there's a lot here in the event log, but it's not really telling me anything so far. Let's take a look here at what you guys are saying. Carrie used Blue Screen View 1.55. Well, we can try it. Like I said, I've not had very good luck with these programs in the past, but we could take a look at it. It's certainly not going to hurt. Is AHCI enabled or not? We're running NVMe drives, so that does not apply. AHCI is just for SATA. It's not for PCI Express. Is the owner of this computer watching this video? I have no idea. No idea. He could be. Sure he will be. If he's not now, he will later. What's that called? Blue Screen View? Let's see if I can find that. We should be connected to the internet here. We'll just keep letting Prime 95 run. This machine can handle the workload. Oh, it's from Nursoft. Yeah, Nursoft has some good programs and some crappy programs. Which one is this? We're gonna find out. Okay, system requirements. Where's the download? Oh, I love how Nursoft just did that. They just opened a new tab and threw an advertisement at me. Thanks for the recommendation. All right, let's find the app. Download it. Download in 64-bit. Yeah, let's grab the 64-bit. Save that. Extract it. Blue screen view, blue screen view. Let's see what it says. There are 9 crashes. No, it says there are 0 crashes. There's no dump file, apparently. It's supposed to automatically load the dump file. It doesn't find one from what it appears. Load from there. Yeah, there's nothing. Like I say, these utilities are usually useless. This is why I don't waste my time with them. What was he? Bill Ottinger has joined. I haven't seen Bill in a while. Welcome back, Bill. Good to see you again. I mean, that's some pretty heavy usage. We're running Prime 95 on here full bore now for what's it been? 20 minutes, I think? You guys probably know better than I do. I haven't been timing it. I've been paying attention to the clock. But yeah, it's full out, pedal to the metal. And where did my temps go? It's got to be minimized somewhere. Oh, there it is. No, let's Prime 95. There it is right there. Okay. So our maximum temps we're hitting 66. So we definitely, 67. 67 is the highest I've seen, which is still well below the threshold. So I'm not worried about that. I think what I'm going to have to do, since I can't seem to make this crash, is probably have to get the customer's login information to the application, because I cannot run the application without his credentials. And then further than that, I will need him to explain to me what he is doing within the application so that I can repeat that, and I should see the same thing he sees. The good news is, let's say, for example, that I do that and I still don't see the problem, then it's possible that one of the parts he removed, one of the hard drives or the graphics card, is the source. And that limits him to just 2 things. He can fix it. Anybody who can put a system like this together can figure that part out on their own. The important thing is that it works for me, that I can go through the same steps he goes through. I can even give him remote access if he's got another machine, and he can actually log in and use the machine remotely and show me, demonstrate the problem to me. And at least when the remote access is reversed, when this blue screens, he won't see it, but I will. And that's what's important. So let's try, let's run, let's see, what else do I have to run? We'll let this continue to run, and let's throw, there's going to be something else on here I can throw on here to push it hard. Oh, let's run Cinebench. See what that does. So we've got, with Prime 95 running, we'll run Cinebench simultaneously and really tax the system and see what happens here. Hopefully, well, either way, whatever it is, right? But if it blue screens, that's all well and good. So we'll do the OpenGL here. We've got to do the license agreement. Accept, run. We'll let that run. Once again, you guys are failing to understand. I've been in the business for 30 years. I'm looking at some of these comments about memory speed and BIOS settings. This was all discussed with the customer before I had the customer go through the expense, time, and effort of shipping this to Arizona. Please, please. If it was that simple, he wouldn't have needed to ship it to me. That's not what it is. I always say check the simple things first, and I always ask the customer, hey, before you box that thing up and ship it across the country, make sure you reset the BIOS, make sure you have the latest BIOS, make sure that you that do the best you can to avoid shipping it to me. Do your best you can to check everything. Pull the memory modules out, run it with half the memory, run mem test on it. Save me and you both some time and money. I don't just say, yeah, you want to ship me a computer, ship it. I ask a lot of questions, and I want to make sure that the customer's expectations are set correctly. And if a customer says they're not willing to do it, that's fine. The customer doesn't have to. If the customer wants to throw money at it, I'm right here. I've never run into a customer that wants to do that. That's still preparing the test. All right, let's see what this is going to do. It's pretty good frame rate considering Prime 95 is pushing all the cores at 100% at the same time. And that's only a 550 Ti graphics card in there, so not exactly equivalent to what the customer has. Close enough for diagnostic purposes, though. Yeah, no crashing there. That looks fine. .09 frames per second with all that stuff going on in the background. And then we'll just do the CPU test next. We'll see what that does. It's going to perform the render test. It's going to render right now. That's about the closest thing I can think of to Lightroom that I can get to without actually using Lightroom. .2715 CB, whatever that means. Looks good. Everything passes. Can't find any fault there. Do I want to save it? No. Let's take a look at what about the Heaven benchmark? What if we run that? That ought to tick it off. So I got to install the C++ stuff. A newer version's already installed. Okay, good. And then maybe I can just install the Heaven program. So yeah, I'm just installing the Heaven benchmark. Just trying to think of ways I can just push the system right up to its edge to make it blue screen, and so far it's running flawlessly, although a bit loud, flawlessly nonetheless. All right, where's Heaven at? Let's launch that. That's over here. Lost my mouse. There it is. This actually may not load because I haven't rebooted since the driver updated. I could be wrong. We'll see. Remember, Prime 95 is running and pushing all 32 cores, 16 cores, 16 extra threads at 100% while it's simultaneously trying to load this. So it's a heavy workload on the system right now. So I'll give it a minute, but I've seen it freeze up here when the driver has been updated, but the system has not been rebooted. And we'll see if it needs that or not. it looks like it's progressing. You get a whole lot of nothing. Yeah, that's not going to load. I think I have to restart it because of the driver. It's not even responding to anything right now. Well, let's try it one more time. Give it one more shot. Oh, it loaded that time. Let's run the benchmark. Malcolm says, as the customer had the issue within Adobe Lightroom, that needs to be used as the application, as it may be using parts of memory that these applications are not. That's absolutely true, but given that I'm live right now and can't talk to the customer, I will do what I reasonably can to push the system hard to see if we can replicate the error until I can get to the customer. This is all I can do, or I can just end the video. Since you know, if I agree with you and say it's pointless, then we should all just go home because, well, you guys are home. But you understand what I'm saying? I mean, be careful what you're asking me to do here. Kerry, the owner's watching. Call him live. No, I'm not going to call him live. I don't need him exposing his login credentials to the world. Dave Murray says, great stream, Kerry, loving it. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, so when we're running the benchmark, you got to remember Prime 95 is pushing all 32 threads at 100% simultaneously. And this is not a 1080 Ti graphics card. This is only a 550 Ti graphics card. Overall, the system is performing at much, much better than I would have suspected it would. I'm actually impressed with that frame rate, considering just how hard the system's being pushed right now and how old that video card is. I'm just a little amused at some of the suggestions coming in are clearly from people Googling that have no real experience at solving this problem, because they're, to me, it's amusing. I appreciate the thought and the intent. I know your intent is to help, but you're really not helping if all you're doing is Googling and parroting that information back to me. If you had real experience in real life fixing a blue screen error on a Core i9 using Lightroom, then I would be very interested in what you did to resolve it. But if all you're doing is Googling and then you're parroting that back out, you're not really helping me. You're just confusing everybody. Okay, so Heaven has stopped running there, so the benchmark completed without any errors. And that was my concern, was to see that it would complete without errors, which it has done successfully. So let's get out of that. I don't know why I keep losing my mouse. Okay. Let's close that out. Now, when I stop Prime 95, you will probably hear those fans quiet right down almost immediately. Let me just take one last look at our temps. Where are we at? Why is this running? Is it running twice? All right, might have had Heaven running simultaneously. I didn't know you could do that. It looks like it was running Heaven's two iterations of Heaven seem to be were running at the same time, which is even an even better test. We're hitting as much as 69 degrees Celsius maximum, but currently the top temperature running at this moment is 62 on just one core. So I'm going to go ahead and stop Prime 95. Boom, it stopped, and we should see these temps immediately go down and hear those fans almost immediately slow down, resulting in the much lower temperature drop. It'll probably drop by 20 plus degrees centigrade here in just a few seconds. Although water in a liquid cooler takes longer to cool than an air cooler. So it's not necessarily that the CPU has stopped generating as much heat, but that we have to wait for the liquid in the cooler to go through the radiator enough times to finally get it cooled down. That's where a liquid cooler actually keeps you running hotter than an air cooler in situations like this. Or, if I were to shut the system off, this whole area would be hotter far longer than if I had an air cooler on there. But if you want to overclock, this will cool better at higher, than an air cooler, so you'd be able to get higher clock speeds with it. So it depends what's important to you. Steve Larkin says, you really do put yourself under a lot of pressure to find faults in a live video. Big respect to you, Kerry. Thank you, Steve. There's somebody who gets it. I appreciate that. Pipes are warm, but they're not overly hot. And I can feel the fluid moving through them. I can actually feel the vibration. It's doing its job. But it's taken a long time, much longer to cool down than I thought. Notice how that light went from red to blue? I think he's got it turning red in the software when the temp hits a certain temperature that it glows red like that. Now it's blue, so it's cooling. Was the customer reporting problems or running any other software? The customer, it's very important for the customer to be able to use Lightroom. It's one of the main purposes that he needs the computer for, and why he spent so much money on it. So whether or not he has problems in other software is irrelevant. He needs Lightroom to work, and I can't get Lightroom to work without his credentials, so I can't even test it until I talk to him. I think his reasoning behind putting the sound card in is flawed. I asked him what was wrong with the onboard sound. This motherboard has an extraordinarily fine sound card, one of the best you can get. So I wanted to know what this was and why he used it, and he didn't answer me as to what it was. He just said he had it laying around, and it's quieting down. That he had it laying around, so why not use it? Well, I'll tell you a reason not to use it. It invites problems. If you don't absolutely have to have it, don't use it. You know, if you're a sound engineer, if you're a musician and you need a higher end sound card, I understand. But if you don't, I gotta tell you something. The built-in sound card on this motherboard, this ASUS Republic of Gamers board, is more than likely much, much better than this, whatever this 2-year-old sound card is. I'm gonna guess. But he didn't tell me a make or model on it, so I don't know what this is. I haven't pulled it out. Remember, I don't want to try fixing anything until I see the problem. Otherwise, anything you say in chat with regards to what you think it is possible, but not necessarily probable, and nor is there any precedent for you to come to that conclusion with regards to this problem. You're just throwing darts at a wall, which anybody can do. It requires very little effort to throw a dart at a wall. So what a technician does is a technician has to replicate the error that the customer claims, verify it, and then take steps accordingly that are most likely to be the root cause of that. This is something you gain through experience. A lot of people use Google as a shortcut, and it does help a lot, but there are occasions where Google doesn't help at all. You simply can't be a Google tech 24/7. You can't sustain a business on Google tech. You have to be able to utilize all of your tools, including this one up here. And the more you do it, the more experience you get, the more you start to, you get hunches and feelings based on past experience. It's hard to explain it. And you know, look, when you can Google something and find the answer, it's great, and nothing wrong with that. That's just working smarter. But if that's the only way you know how to work, you're not going to survive in this business very long. So I think what we'll do, I'll take a little break. Let me see if I can reach out to the customer. Maybe we can get Team Viewer on there or something, some free remote, Ultra Viewer, something. And see if I can get the customer to show me That would be the best thing. So let's all take just a little 15-20 minute break, and we'll come back and if I can't get a hold of them, I can't see any point in continuing it. When I tested with MemTest, I only tested in in a single dual channel. I didn't test in quad channel. Well, I did test in quad channel overnight, but initially I tested everything in dual channel. So, but you guys are making assumptions. You're not so here's my point. When you guys say you're just trying to help, you need to be asking me questions, because otherwise you're just spitting out irrelevant information, and while your intent is to help, what you're doing is you're confusing a lot of viewers. But feel free to ask me if I had tried this. That would be more appropriate than just making an assumption that I didn't. And like I said, the end result is you're making a lot of, the chat's moving so quickly with irrelevant information, I can't see the relevant information. You're not helping me when you do that. So, but yes, if you have a question about an idea you have, confirm it with me. That's all. So we're not going down some path without justification that's already been gone down, especially if you haven't joined since the beginning of the feed and you missed all the prior information. So when I take the break, you'll be able to rewind the video to go back to anything you might have missed and get caught up with us. Hopefully it will be maybe 10-15 minutes. I hope I can reach him. He might be at work, he might be unavailable, I don't know. But let me try that first, and then we'll try to see if we can get this problem replicated. You know, we want to see a blue screen of death. That's our goal here. We want to see it. It's kind of humorous to me that sometimes customers will say, you know, I can't believe that you didn't have the problem, and then they're sad and disappointed that, you know, that the problem was something simple. I'm like, don't be sad and disappointed it was simple. Be happy. What do you want it to be, complicated and expensive and take a long time? So anyway, let's take a quick break, and I'll be back here in just a little bit. Remember, you can rewind this video. You can use your mouse and scroll back to see anything you might have missed. And then I will be back as soon as I find out one way or another if I can get a hold of the customer. So hang in there. I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I've got the customer on the phone right now. I've got TeamViewer installed, and I've asked him to log in and demonstrate the problem to me so we can see if we can replicate this problem. If any of the parts that I asked him to remove before shipping are a result of the problem, we won't be able to replicate it. Or if the BIOS update I did resolved it, or reseating the memory resolved it, this will tell us one way or another. So I see the wallpaper went black, so I guess you're connected now, yes?
Yes, I will.
Okay, and go ahead and bring up your Lightroom. I'm going to kind of stand in front of the screen so people don't see your login credentials.
Okay, 1 second.
Okay, it looks like you're logged in and it's loading.
Okay.
All right, now I'm going to step aside so everybody can watch you now. And we can, actually, let me move this TeamViewer notification out of the way. Okay, so let's see if we get a blue screen.
Okay, let's see. I think this picture, because there is no access to the hard drive that I put those photos on. So
yeah.
Let's see if this one's available. This is the same thing. So we need to find a photo that's available on the computer right now.
Yeah, you can always upload one through TeamViewer as well if you wanted to do that, or you can search through whichever is ever easier for you.
Let me see. You know, the problem is that last month or 2 months ago, I was like, the last thing I did was reinstalling the window again.
Oh, you did reinstall Windows?
Yes, and I reinstalled everything.
When you reinstalled it, did you wipe it clean or did you just do like a repair install?
No, I did wipe it clean too.
Okay.
I get new hard drive actually, but the Samsung, the new Evo.
Yeah, the 970 Evo, that was added recently?
Yes.
Which one are we booting? So we're booting from the 970 Evo and not the Intel?
Yes, from the 970 Evo. Correct.
Good. That's the way I would have done it.
Yeah. Let me see where I have photos. Where's the background? Okay, let me just get one photo and then try to upload it to the TeamViewer. 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, so after I reinstalled everything, updated everything, I still I run the Lightroom for maybe a week or two.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I start getting the blue screen again.
So it was crashing. You wiped the hard drive, reinstalled Windows, reinstalled your applications, reinstalled Lightroom. Lightroom worked for a week or two without any problems, and then it started crashing, and it just keeps crashing after that again, right back to where you started from.
Correct, yes.
Weird. Okay.
Let me see what I have here. Okay, so I have one. So we use file transfer. I'm just gonna send this.
Yeah, you can do file transfer. You can literally copy and paste it if you want to as well.
Okay.
Okay, so you've got that file transferring now?
Yes. Okay.
Alan Butterfield's contributed £5. This is hi, Carrie. This has been a great learning curve for me. You're one of the best techs around, and I'm from the UK in Liverpool. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, Alan. Thanks for your contribution. I appreciate that. Flattery will get you everywhere. All right.
Should be able to drag and drop it, right? But it doesn't.
Yeah, you can drag and drop it, or you can right click and choose copy, then go to the remote desktop, right click on it on an empty spot, and choose paste. Either way, TeamViewer will take it either way.
It doesn't let me do that. I don't know why.
It's not letting you copy and paste, or it's not letting you drag and drop?
Both operation I can't do that.
That's weird. Well, oh, maybe because you're on a Mac.
Maybe.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So, and the problem, the file I have is big file, huge file. So let me see. Try find the picture from the computer there. So if I go library module here and port. Folder. Okay. Just
Ooh, looks like an MRI.
yeah, I don't know where it comes from, so but let's import this one. It's importing. Okay.
And now these blue screens, as you're adjusting like your color temperature and stuff on this image, was there anything in specifically that you could never seem to get past, or was the blue screen just completely random?
It's random.
Oh, those are the fun ones to fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Believe me, like, you know, I spent time with Adobe support and Microsoft and every single person. Like, I was thinking maybe software issue, but it turned to be not. I don't think so.
Yeah, usually by the time the customers reach me, they've already, I'm their last resort. I know it's inconvenient to ship a computer so far, so I have to assume you really tried a lot of things, even though we didn't talk about it. I have to assume that you just weren't real eager to ship it 2,500 miles.
Yes,
And when you were doing this, the system wasn't overclocked, right? You just had everything stock?
No. So the story with the system, when I decided to upgrade my old computer, was I start with the i9, the other processor, the other CPU.
Yeah.
Was the i9, the 7940, not the 60. I tried to overclock that one, and the system was unstable a little bit. Then I said, okay, I don't need to overclock this computer.
Yeah, when a system's not stable, overclocking is not worth doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put it back to normal, like without overclocking and stuff. Then it happened, the same thing happened. And then I said, okay, maybe because I overclocked the CPU, let me just return the CPU, because I had like protection plan on it. So I returned back to them.
Oh, you sent the CPU back and then got a replacement?
Yes.
And then, yeah, I know where this is going.
Yeah.
Didn't make any difference.
I upgraded to the 7960, this one that you have right now, and I didn't overclock it at all from the beginning, from day one, and same issue. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we know there wasn't any damage from the overclocking then, at least not to the CPU.
For this one, no, absolutely not. I didn't even try to overclock it.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, if this is the kind of work you do with the computer, those fans are not very loud right now, but when I push the system hard, those fans get pretty loud. So
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So you have experienced that then?
Yes.
Okay.
I think only when I run the test, for testing, when I did the testing, it was like a little bit loud. But otherwise, with normal use, it's never been.
That's what I figured. Yeah.
Yeah.
Normal use, you're not pushing the system that hard to cause.
Never,
it's just when you test it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So whether or not that's anything you want to address, that's up to you. It kind of depends on what kind of a hurry you are to get the system back. If we can't make it blue screen, I'm wide open as far as how long you want to keep testing. But I already did. There was a new BIOS update that came out on the last day of the month, last month. And that could have addressed something. And then I reseated all of the RAM, but you did all that already, right? You already reseated the RAM and tested the RAM.
Yes.
So the only problem I could think is maybe the RAM got shifted in shipping, and that's why I had that mem test error. Because after everything was reseated, it's flying through it just fine. It's possible you could have a problem with your graphics card, though I doubt it.
I mean, by the way, the graphics card that before I bought this 1080 Ti, I did have the regular 1080. I did have I put them in S5.
Oh, you had a 1080 and a 1080 Ti in SLI mode?
No. I did have two 1080.
Two 1080s in SLI.
Yes, but what I did when I get those those screen, I said maybe the one of the things that I did change is the graphic card. Okay, maybe the SLI or one of the graphic cards. I get rid of those two cards and I get this one 1080 Ti just recently, maybe 2-3 months ago.
Wow, you're throwing some money at this problem, aren't you?
I know.
Holy smokes. Okay. So you had 1080 Ti, sorry, you had two 1080s in SLI mode. You were getting the blue screens. You took them both out and replaced both of them with a single 1080 Ti, and that hasn't made a difference. So it's not your graphics card. We know it's not your CPU. Your temperatures are running fine, so it's not a heat issue. Your memory is passing the test, but that doesn't absolve your memory entirely, but it does make it less likely. You could still have an issue with the motherboard itself, and if there's no real good reason to have the sound card in there, if it was me, I wouldn't have it in there, just because.
By the way, I heard about the sound card, but the sound card, I put it after, even with after the blue screen error, so it's not.
Oh, the sound card was something you added after blue screens were already happening?
Right, correct.
Okay, well, never mind that then.
Yeah, so.
What about power supplies? Did you try any different power supply?
Power supply, I used to have the Corsair, the 1000 watt like before, and I changed it to this one.
So you had a 1000-watt Corsair power supply, you were blue screening, you put the EVGA in that you've got now, you're still blue screening, you've wiped and reinstalled Windows and everything, it's still blue screening. I'm starting to sense your frustration now.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm not seeing a blue screen. I'm only hearing you telling me about it. And I don't think you're a liar. I don't think you just wanted to send your computer to me.
No, of course not.
But I don't like it when things don't add up. There's got to be something we're missing. How long, on average, when you're doing this in Lightroom, how long does it normally take you before a blue screen occurs?
It's random also. Sometimes 2 minutes, 3 minutes, sometimes after an hour.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's frustrating. Now, what about any issues with Lightroom itself? You said you spoke to Adobe. They weren't familiar with any particular compatibility or similar issues with the i9?
No, they did not.
And they, obviously, they know Lightroom better than anybody, and this had them baffled with no answer. And you talked to Microsoft?
I did like 3 times. They did reset Windows like maybe 3-4 times. Every time I called them, they give me the same answers on same solution.
Yeah, well, it's a script. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It feels like memory to me. It really does. Did you try running it with less memory just to see? Did you like take half of your memory out just to run it?
No, I did not. But before I did those like the Corsair memories, I did have the G-Skill. Like,
oh my gosh. So you had G-Skill memory and it was blue screening with that. You switched to the Corsair memory.
On the same thing.
You basically swapped every single part but the motherboard?
No, the motherboard, also I changed the motherboard. I used to have like another ASUS motherboard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What do you have, 2 computers now? I mean, it sounds like you bought enough extra parts.
No, some of the stuff I like because they are. Whenever I buy those like expensive things, I buy like protection plan from Micro Center. So they are good with that. They just anything either breaks, anything either overclock issues and problems, they take it out. Like they give like.
They took it back and you got a refund?
Yes.
Oh, awesome! That's great.
Yeah.
Good to know. I don't think we have Micro Centers here in Phoenix, but I've heard about them.
Yeah, they are amazing. They are the best.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
All right, so it's a different motherboard, different CPU, different power supply, different graphics card, different cooler?
Cooler is different also. I used to have another Corsair, like liquid cooler also, like from the old system. So I changed it to this one.
And a different M.2 drive? Well,
yes.
I mean, you were booting from the Intel one before, and now you're booting from the Samsung now?
Okay, so what happened is like initially, like I have the Evo 960 with the Intel.
You had the 960.
Yes.
And the Intel?
Yes, on the Intel.
And then you upgraded the 960 for the 970.
Correct.
I gotcha.
On the Intel, yeah, initially I was booting from the Intel, but then turned to be also the same issue with the blue screen. So I don't think that hard drive.
Yeah, no. So you were initially booting from the Intel, and then did you switch to the 960 and try that, or did you just swap the 960?
Yes, I did.
So
anyway, what I did also, I sent like the 960 to Samsung, and they didn't find any issue with it, so they sent it back to me.
Okay. So, wow, you got Samsung involved in this, you got Microsoft involved in this, you got Adobe involved in this, and no answers.
And finally care, you know.
And now it's all come down to me. No pressure. Well, it's going to get fixed one way or another.
Yep. I know.
Good. All right, as long as I have your confidence. But I have to see the problem though, because I don't know where to start. It's hard to know if you fixed it when there's no way to real test it, you know, to really replicate this issue. So I'm hoping by just chit-chatting here with you that you're just kind of working in the background as we bide our time and hope that it occurs. Is this a good time for you? Because we can do this another time if you're busy.
No, it's okay. I have like maybe half an hour. Hopefully it's going to happen in the next half an hour.
Well, when you have to go, you let me know, because we can do this anytime. But I know we've got viewers watching live. We've got about 776 people watching us live. And everything that you've described to me doesn't make sense. So there's a piece of information that's missing. And that's my goal, is to find that piece of information.
But also what I noticed, like, I don't know if that's helpful. Remember with the email that I sent you earlier, that when I do like a video game with Far Cry 4.
Right.
For Far Cry 4, I was unable to install this game again at all.
I did see errors in your event log about Far Cry 4.
Yes. I contacted the Uplay, those guys, like Ubisoft, the one that they took the game. Mm-hmm. They send me like some fixing stuff, this and that, and to run this test. I unable to do anything with that. Nothing happened. And this happened only with this game, specifically, with nothing with.
Well, these could be related. Maybe getting Far Cry 4 to install and work. Do you want to try that now? Is that something you just bring up from Steam?
From Steam, yes.
I mean, since this seems to be working, you don't have to close it down. We can leave it open and then also install Far Cry 4 at the same time. You want to try it, or what do you think?
Let's try it, yes.
I need to see an error. I'm desperate to see any error at all.
Okay. The other thing is with the other game, when I play with this game, like usually when you expect that you have this good video card that you will run every single game on there. But the problem, like some games when I play them, I see like some lagging there. It's not like as expected. I was thinking maybe temperature related, but it tends to be that the video card was like cool, it's fine, like in 55 maximum.
So you're getting some weird lagging in what games?
Any kind of game. Like I played like Far Cry 5, the newest one, and which other game I was playing? I forget. But usually,
Did you, when you had the 1080s and SLI, were you still having that lagging?
On this machine, not on the old one.
So everything, okay, all right. And this machine didn't have SLI then? This was the old machine?
Yes.
Okay.
This machine has the SLI in the beginning.
So it did have SLI?
Yes, in the beginning. Not like after I removed the video card, I put the new one, that's it.
But since you put the 1080 Ti in, that's when it started lagging?
No, even with the SLI.
Even with SLI it lagged. Okay, all right. All right. Yeah, let's bring up Steam and see if you can get Far Cry 4 to crash. Maybe I can see that.
Where's
Now, you were using Lightroom on a system you had before this,
Yes,
and you didn't have any problems with it.
never.
It's just part of the new system. So right now it looks like you're getting Far Cry installed here.
It's installing.
And usually where does it crash? Is it at the end of the install, during the install, or when you start the game?
So when I start the game.
Okay. So everything so far is normal.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, when I said like I couldn't get it to install, I mean not to install correctly. There was always problem with the installation, so I couldn't run the game.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
You remember when I thought I couldn't install the Far Cry 4? I mean, I couldn't play the game because it seems like it never gets installed correctly.
Yeah. Well, I was just trying to get that defined. So it does install, it doesn't play.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So everything has been replaced, including the CPU. Every single component, power supply, RAM, CPU, motherboard. The sound card wasn't in it. You added the sound card after the fact, and it hasn't changed anything either way.
Correct.
Did you try plugging it into a different outlet in your house? Different power source?
No.
It seems unlikely. I'm just asking.
No.
Okay.
I did not.
And you had other computers plugged into the same power source that ran fine for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the only thing that's changed is this new hardware. I wonder if the BIOS update could have done something.
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Because
we'll know if this plays. If this plays, it had to be a BIOS update, because I can't imagine.
Maybe.
SSDs have been swapped out. Everything's been swapped. Every single component, apart from the case.
Motherfucker, even I changed the case.
Did you change the case?
Yeah, the case for the old system, I saw everything in that case. I think the Corsair, I forget the name for that one.
Was it a Corsair?
Yeah, Corsair also.
Yeah.
And then I said, okay, let me change that to...
I will give you it to you. Are very thorough.
You believe me, like I watched every single repair video on YouTube, and I read many articles about the issue. And then I said, okay, now I'm done. I gave up.
Yeah, well, some people give up earlier than others, but I don't think you had anything left. I think I'm it. I think I'm your last. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope. But it may not have been anything to do with me. If it was a BIOS update, it might have been the BIOS all along.
Maybe the BIOS, maybe.
Just given it's a brand new chip, the i9 hasn't been out that long. I've never seen one before. This is the first time.
Uh-huh.
Software. Steam client update has been downloaded. Yeah, okay. Restart Steam. Nine hours. Holy smoke. Oh, 6, 8, 6.
So I think
21 gigs to download Far Cry 4. Are you kidding me?
I mean, you know that in New York City, we have the 1 gig internet, so you can download it over like maybe 10 minutes or so.
Yeah, go ahead, rub it in. And you also have drinkable water that comes out of your faucet. I don't.
Yeah.
Darn New Yorkers. My friend from Canada came to visit me and he said, well, how's your tap water taste? I said, I wouldn't drink it if I were you. And he tasted it. He went, oh, that's disgusting. I said, welcome to Phoenix. 21 gigs. And this is Far Cry 4, not Far Cry 5.
No, this is 4.
The people in the chat say you've easily spent over $7,000. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow. That's what I spend on bottled water. You know, when you have problems like this, it's important to remember to laugh.
Yeah.
Has he made another computer out of all the parts he ripped out? No, he said he bought a lot of the parts from Micro Center and was able to return them for a refund. Slow Death says there are 70 gigabyte games. That's crazy. Back in my day, 8K, that was your game. Got to fit it in 8K.
8K.
That's right. And then we got to 64K and we were playing with fire then. Digital fire. With this download, I'll reach my data cap. No, my data cap is 1,000 gigs. I think we'll be all right. People corrected me. They said, that's not what I spend on bottled water. That's what I spend on Coca-Cola. They might be right. Now, you did all the work, right? You built this yourself?
Yes.
How many computers have you built?
You know, I think I started building since 2006.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like sometimes I build like 2-3 computers a year just for myself, my friends, and then I upgrade after 2-3 years. So I was not really frequently building computers, but maybe this is number 10 or 12.
Wow, that's really good. Okay, so you know what you're doing.
Yeah, kind of. I mean.
No, I mean, clearly. I mean, I'm looking at it. I don't see anything wrong with anything you've done, and I'm looking for it. You know, I'm really looking. And it does smell a little like cigarettes. I'm just curious, are you a smoker?
No.
I wonder why it smells like cigarettes.
Because, you know, we mainly staying in the basement. I use the basement as my main office.
Yeah.
So, and we have the kitchen close by, so probably that's why.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's good. That's good. I've seen a lot of smoke damage from, not your computer, but from other computers, from people that, like, sit in front of it and literally blow the smoke right onto it. And it causes all kinds of damage to the components over time. And I was just curious. Right. It's just lightly, it's not real heavily, but it's got that smell to it, that cigarette smell. And I was just curious. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Let's see what they're saying in the chat room here. What's this download say it needs? How much time? 6 hours. I guess we should just let this run, and then maybe you and I should reconnect since you have to go soon anyway.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to bring up Lightroom and play with it a little bit more and let this just run in the background while you play with Lightroom, you know, anything that can cause that blue screen, like I said, I'm desperate to see an error. Because you're frustrated because you're getting this error you can't solve, and I'm frustrated because I can't get the error.
You can't get error, I know.
Right.
Especially those errors, like random errors is like not something big. You expect, you know when you expect them to happen, so.
Kevin Pazik has contributed $5. He says it ain't much, but you're earning it today. That's true, Kevin. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, the last 2 computers I had in for repair, they were real easy fixes. You're making up for that right now. You're making me earn my money today. And given that I'm not making any money, it's just you're just paying for shipping.
Or shipping.
I need to reevaluate my business model. I think it's not right. No, this is good. This is what I live for. This what I do can be very boring because I see the same problems over and over and over, or it can be very frustrating because no matter how many years of experience I have, I run into something like this that doesn't make any sense and I've never seen it before. So that's good. It keeps me interested. And it keeps me out of jail, right? Keeps me busy.
I think so, yes.
RM has contributed $10. He says, good stream, my friend. Thank you, RM. I appreciate that. Rich Robbins in the chat says, tell him to keep loading stuff until it blue screens. Well, he's only getting the blue screen specifically in Lightroom, so I don't see the point in just loading stuff if the other stuff he doesn't have a problem with.
Everything else was good. Like, I did never have any issue with any
It was
other
just,
program.
yeah, it's just Lightroom and Far Cry 4.
Right.
And those two things could be related. You know, if we fix one, by default, we might be fixing the other.
Possible.
That's my optimistic view of it at this point. Anyway. Did he say he swapped out the motherboard? He swapped out every single component. Everything. SSD, case, power supply, motherboard, CPU, cooler, power supply. Reformatted, reinstalled the operating system, reinstalled Lightroom. Nordo BJ says, oh, he's contributed $10. Kerry, this is a real challenge. Maybe a little more money will work. He's tried that already, right? You already tried to throw money at it, solution. That didn't work, did it?
It did not.
I used to work for a guy, and he used to tell customers, they'd say, can you fix it? And he would say, we can fix it if it takes every penny you have.
Oh, that's...
Which I think is a horrible thing to say to a customer, but he thought it was funny. If I was a customer, I'd be afraid there's a little truth in that little joke. If I put the cover back on the case, does it crash? I don't think so. It's not an airtight cover.
No.
And you did reset your BIOS, right? When you had the system, you went to the default settings?
Yes.
Yeah. And you had the different motherboard, so those are two different BIOSes, and yet the other board was crashing too?
It's crashing too also.
And you said it was crashing with a lesser model of the i9? Is that what you said? You went from, what was it, an i9?
7940.
7940.
Yeah, and now this one is 7960.
To the 7960. Okay. And everything in the chat room, he says, does not compute, does not compute. Exactly. That's exactly right. Something's not adding up. There's some piece of information here. When he said he was using Lightroom with no issues, is it the same version of Lightroom he has on this computer?
It's updated like 3 times, 4 times since then. Since like every month.
Every month there's a new update?
I think not every month, but I think it updated like 3 times since July or so.
It's been updated 3 times since the problem started?
Yes.
But not necessarily as a result of one of the updates the problem didn't start?
No.
Okay. He's replaced the RAM. He had G-Skill RAM before. He's replaced the software. The sound card he added after the fact, after the blue screens, and it hasn't made a difference. Do you use a UPS, an uninterruptible power supply, on this machine?
This one, no, I did not use.
Okay.
Yeah, I use that one, no.
Has the NVMe changed out? Yeah, we talked about that. He had a 960. He sent it back to Samsung, replaced it with a 970. Samsung checked the 960 out, couldn't find any problems with it, and returned it to him. Yes, the graphics cards were swapped. He had 2 1080s and SLI. He replaced it with a single 1080 Ti. Doesn't make any difference. If you're just joining us, the customer's connected remotely from his home in New York to his computer here in Phoenix. And I've asked him to use the computer as he normally uses it, where the blue screens come up so I can see a blue screen occur. And he also says Far Cry 4 doesn't play. So we're downloading Far Cry 4, but it's going to take a while. It's 21, 22 gigs of download. So we probably won't be able to get that done during the live stream, but it's running in the background while at the same time he's running Lightroom and using it as he ordinarily would to try and replicate the problem. He says sometimes the problem happens in 2 minutes and sometimes it's a couple hours. There's no rhyme or reason to when these blue screens occur. Diego Lou Samstown's contributed $10. He says, hi Carrie, I'm having problems finding your email. Can I contact you on the Facebook Messenger app? Yes, you can. You can also find my email at tech-vets.com. There's a link to click on to email me there. You've got people in the chat room going, I've never wanted to see a blue screen so much, LOL. Was it a blue screen when I received it? No, I have never seen this computer blue screen. But I wasn't using Lightroom, and he says it only happens in Lightroom. I couldn't bring up Lightroom because it requires the customer's credentials. And even if I could bring up Lightroom, I don't know how to use it. So by having the customer log in remotely, he's now able to put his credentials in and use Lightroom as he would normally use it at home, where he experiences these random crashes in the hopes that we can have a random crash at some point. That's what we're doing right now. The hard drives that you're using, are they old or are they new?
I think 2 of them are new, brand new, and 2 of them, there is 1 4 terabyte and 1 2 terabyte are old machine.
And when you were having the problem, did you disconnect those?
No.
Okay, so if we can't make this, and I'm talking into the future, I'm not talking about any time today, but if we end up never being able to duplicate this problem and you get it back and you put your video card and hard drives back in it and it happens again, it's got to be the video card or the hard drives.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Right? So Let's see what happens. But hopefully we'll see a blue screen, because I would hate to ship it back to you after having done nothing more than basically update the BIOS. That would be a very expensive BIOS update for you.
Very expensive.
Yeah, and Micro Center ain't giving you your money. FedEx isn't returning your money is all I'm saying.
No, they don't.
Yeah, they did their job. They're the only ones making money on this whole deal.
Yeah.
Over 800 people are waiting in anticipation for this blue screen, so no pressure. Like I said, there's you let me know when you have to go.
Yeah, I think I have to go in the next 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm on call tonight also. So yeah.
That's kind of funny. Based on the images you're looking at, someone in the chat room has diagnosed this to be a Acute Adobe colitis or Microsoft colitis? That's funny. Well, someone said maybe the computer prefers my house over yours. I guess maybe it just needs to stay with me for a little while.
I honestly, no rush, but also I don't want to waste your time either.
No, I mean, it's don't worry about me. You're the one that's being inconvenienced in both time and money, not me. This is a learning experience for me because it's something new. This is what I live for. I want to know if I'm checking the temps. I don't need to check the temps because I can hear the fans are not cranking up. If the temps are getting hotter, those fans get loud, and those fans are staying nice and quiet, so it's clearly not a temperature problem.
I don't think so.
The gentleman who sent me his computer, he had a bad reset switch. He's suggesting I check your reset switch. Can you imagine how easy my job would be if that's all I did all day? It's a bad reset switch. Have you tried changing the reset switch? Yeah, a bad reset switch is really, really rare. You got to be someone special to be afflicted with that particular issue. That's just bad luck. I think that guy needs to go play the lottery. What about your mouse and keyboard? Are they the same keyboard and mouse throughout this whole process, or have you changed those out?
They are the same.
Yeah.
They change it.
I don't think it's likely to be a keyboard or mouse. I mean, especially if they're, not exhibiting any strange behaviors. But you gotta consider everything connected, and I gotta wonder what's different at my place from the way I have it hooked up to what's different at your place, and that is something to consider as well. Although it seems highly unlikely. Arnold in Holland says the Intel forum contains messages about problems with an i9 CPU and X299 chipset-based boards with Adobe Lightroom, and that a BIOS update fixed a blue screen issue, and he hopes that information helps. Well, I don't think it helps. It's a very strange, random, intermittent problem. So just because we're not seeing it now doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It could take an hour or two before it happens, and sometimes it'll happen in 2 minutes. So I don't know that. I think you guys might be giving up a little earlier, or like, well, that's done, let's go to lunch. You're doing that far too soon. You need to give the system time.
Okay, can I get excused now, if you don't mind?
I'm sorry, what?
I just need to leave now, if you don't mind.
Oh, you need to go?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, thanks for joining me last minute like this and for running it through the test. Just go ahead and close out TeamViewer and just leave everything running that's running right now, and I'm going to let it sit that way while it downloads Far Cry 4.
Okay.
And then when you have some time later on, give me a call and we'll pick it up and see where we're at.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah. Where are you going to see that on YouTube's Check Channels? Check Channel? Tech Channel. What other YouTube tech channels do this? They're not as crazy as me. Real customers, real problems, in real time. So, he's disconnected from TeamViewer. Let's minimize that. How are we doing on Steam? Where did the upload go? There it is. It's got 1.8 gig out of 21.5. It wants 3 hours and 20 minutes to complete that. I'm going to let that run. I'm just waiting to see. I can't fix something that's not broke. Can you understand now why I get so frustrated when I see you guys looking at temps when you're not having any problems? When I see you guys asking questions about thermal compounds when you're not fixing anything? I get frustrated because I can't comprehend why anybody would go looking for a problem when they're not experiencing any problems, because usually all you end up doing is creating one, and at great expense, and often come to me for help afterwards. That was completely avoidable if you'd have just left it alone. Because problems tend to creep up on their own when you do everything the way you're supposed to. You don't need to invent them. This is a great example. This right here is a great example of that, in the sense that he hasn't done anything wrong, obviously, that I can see. All the parts have been swapped out. Software's been reinstalled. I don't know, and you know, we have this problem. And this is a real problem. You can see he's using this, clearly he's using this for medical related work. That's some pretty serious stuff. And granted, it's not, I'm sure he's not relying on it as the sole computer, but I'm sure he would like to. And you think of the investment that's made. You think how serious money gets when you start spending it and it's yours. You just want it to work. You don't necessarily want to start screwing around with it just to see what would happen. You go to a swap meet or a Goodwill and buy a used computer and take those apart and play with those all day long. This is more common than you would probably believe. Sometimes the customer's incapable of actually describing the problem accurately, and so you ask the customer to demonstrate it, which is what I've done here. Not because the customer couldn't demonstrate it well, or couldn't explain it well, but because I couldn't understand it well, because I don't use Adobe Lightroom. I never used it in my life. I know what it does and I know why it's used, but I don't know how to use it, so how would I test it? So it's best, when people do this benchmarking stuff and burn-in software, it's all a waste of time. Giving it to the customer, that's the best benchmark ever. If the customer's happy, the system's running fine. That's the only benchmark that matters. So when people get obsessed over benchmark numbers that aren't matching their friends, but they don't have any problems, you know, the gameplay is smooth, I just can't wrap my mind around having that much free time to just sit around and do nothing but poke at something that's not broken until you break it. I just don't, and this is why. Because behind this computer, I've got 6 more waiting for repair. And once those 6 are done, I've got 3 more coming in. And not necessarily waiting for, I've got 1 I've got to upgrade. 1, 2, 3 I've got to upgrade. 4, 5 I've got to build. So yeah. And hopefully the ones I build, when I send them, especially the one that's going to Australia, I better make sure I double and triple check everything. Because if I overlook the smallest little thing, it's a long trip to Australia. In fact, it just wouldn't be practical to, you know, other than to have somebody local fix it. So yeah, don't need to go looking for problems. And except I do when it's going to Australia. Different story. Then I will look for problems. The contributions come in. This is, let's see, what did I miss? Z Modems contributed $20. Totally worth this, he says. This live stream is amazing. You see, you and I have different views on that. I feel like I haven't really gained anything other than just sharing with you a real technician-customer interaction and a demonstration of, you know, an end user. This is not a common end user. He's built about 12 computers and he's selected very high-end parts. But this is real. This does happen in the business. It doesn't happen very often. Most of the people who can do this can solve their own problems. I completely understand his frustration in that what else is left? I'm it. I'm the last thing left. And I'm not the kind of guy to just kick the can down to the next guy. The buck stops with me. Every computer problem can be fixed. I've never seen a computer that couldn't be fixed. And there's just a level of patience, and you accept it as a challenge and a great learning experience that will be shared in future stories as I'm building a computer in years ahead. I remember there was a guy from New York mailed me a machine, was super high end, and I'll be able to tie that story up with a neat bow sooner or later. But right now, not so much. When he contacted me, when the customer contacted me in email and explained this, he didn't go into that much detail, because that's the first time we've spoken on the phone. We've only spoken this way. And you can convey a lot more information quicker when you speak and when you listen. And that was a lot more information than I had previously. Ron Stewart says he likes my mouse and keyboard. This mouse and keyboard over here, this is the Jellycomb, and this is Logitech over on this side. Cable management in this case must have been a bear. It's well, really? You want to see it? It's not a whole lot to brag about there, but you know what? One of the things about the 760T is, you can just shove them in there and close the door. Management done. Rock on. No, it's it's perfectly fine that way. You don't have to make it look pretty in the back. Am I going to do any more streams tonight? No, I will not. I've got to eat dinner at some point tonight. It's about 4 o'clock my time. I had to run 5 errands before I started this today. And I have a bunch of computers. I've got let me think. That computer going to Louisiana, I need to finish that. I got to do the wire management, and I got to reinstall the OS from home to Pro. I got to put Pro on there. Reinstall the drivers and tweak it a little bit, get the cable management nice and clean, put the covers on it and get it shipped out. I won't film that because it's boring. And then I've got one going to Oregon. That system I built with the MSI motherboard, customer contacted me, says he wants to buy it, but he wants to change the RAM, the NVMe drive, and add a 1080 Ti graphics card. Those 3 parts came in today. And the system's already built, so all I have to do is get it up here on the bench, pull the RAM, put in the customer's RAM, pull the NVMe drive, put the customer's NVMe drive in there. I think he got a 1 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo or Pro. I think it's an Evo. And then slap the video card in, do the cable management, box it up, and get that one out to Oregon. Then I've got the Nuka-Cola case that's for another gentleman. His name is John. Another Nuka-Cola case going to Australia, but I haven't ordered the parts for that other than the case. And a viewer named Robert, who's local, said, I bought a Nuka-Cola case. Well, he bought. And he moved his parts into it, and the system wouldn't boot up. And he got angry, and he pulled his parts out and put them back in his old case. And it said, do you want this Nuka-Cola case? I said, seriously? Because I know I could return it, but I want to give something back, and I want to be anonymous about it, so don't tell people my name. And I said, that's fine, Robert. I won't tell people your full name. We'll just say his name's Robert, because that's his name. And we'll say he's a local viewer, because he's local. And I guess there's a bobblehead included in the NZXTK. I was wondering why there's this big piece of styrofoam down in the power supply area. It didn't make any sense to me, but I didn't open it up and look when I did the showcase that case. And he's like, yeah, I even put the bobblehead back in it. You can just have the whole thing. It's my way of giving back, and you just keep doing what you're doing. And I thought, maybe I should move Threadripper into Nuka-Cola for me. There's only 2,000 of those Nuka-Cola cases made, and I've got 3 of them right now. NZXT should love me. But then I don't know how to display all the contributors' names without really affecting the look of that Nuka-Cola case. I'll find something to do with it. Patrick Rousseau says, Carrie, I mailed you a little something in honor of you reaching over 200,000 subs. Well, thank you, Patrick. Of course, gifts aren't necessary, but they are appreciated, but not necessary. Corner the market on Coca-Cola cases. Yeah, well, the Coca-Cola needs to start paying me if we're going to take it that far. The least they could do is give me some free Coke. Complimentary diabetes, you know, give me something. Bad metal, that's right. Carrie, I did a rebuild of my Core i7-4770K. Very soon I'm going to do a new computer build with a Ryzen 2700X. I like your videos very much. All the best from Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Oh, well, thank you. That's from CB de Cat. Simon says you need to put Thready in there and enjoy that case. Yeah, we got to get, yeah, but Thready wouldn't be possible without the contributors. I can't just go back on my word. There may be another solution to this, best of both worlds. I got to think about it. It's not high up on my priority list right now. I've got the case, I've got Threadripper. It's all being pushed aside. Customers come first. And as long as customers keep coming, then it'll just have to keep waiting. All right, well, I think, what are we at here? 3.1 gigs have been downloaded, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Well, at least it's not at 6 hours. That's updated to a much more accurate number. And I suppose when I'm done streaming, this will speed up a bit because I'm not only uploading data, but I'm also receiving the data I'm uploading as I watch what you guys are seeing versus what I see. I see both. The live feed, that's, you know, the minute I do this, it happens instantly. And then when you guys get it about 90 seconds later. So there's data moving back and forth on any YouTube live stream that I do. And on top of that, this is sharing the same internet connection, and it's probably why it's bogged down. And furthermore, I'm hooked up wirelessly to the network, and there's no antennas here on the back, so it's not getting a very good signal. So when I'm off, I can take my hard line and plug the LAN into it that way, and that could speed it right up. Clockwatch says your live streams are usually very interesting. Many things from Hungary. Thank you for that. And I believe my ancestors on my father's side are from Hungary and Portugal on my mother's side. That's what I've been told. I haven't done the 23andMe yet. I don't want them to take my DNA and make superhumans out of it. Not without me getting paid. You do sign away your rights to your DNA, by the way. You basically tell companies like Ancestry.com and 23andMe that they have a right to make money from your DNA and not give you any of it. So, yeah, I'm not okay with that. Make a plaque for the Thready build contributors. Yeah, we're talking about that. It's not really financially feasible at this point, but we're looking at some different ways to do that. The 200R should be named Corsair Holzman. Carrie, are you still planning to change out the Thermaltake cooler on the Threadripper? It's not a Thermaltake cooler on the Threadripper, it's an Enermax cooler. And yes, I have an Arctic 33 TR or TR33 cooler sitting in a box, just waiting until I have time. Customers come first. What do I think of the new user interface in Chrome 69? To me, it's not a big deal. It doesn't really look all that different. Kind of like it, to be honest, but it's not enough that... Yeah, I might find out I'm adopted. That's right. President Trump's illegitimate child with the porn star. That's what I'm afraid my DNA test is going to reveal. It'll be the best DNA test with the best genomes. Everybody's going to love my DNA markers. They're the best the world's seen. No, my hair's not right for that. That can't be right. I have too much hair for that. Can't be possible. Jesse in California says he enjoys watching the videos. Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate your kind words. I have the best viewers. Trust me. You might get cloned, Carrie. Yeah, nobody wants that. That'll be the end of civilization right there. Have I been to Portugal? I've barely been out of the United States. No, I've never been to Portugal. But I think I'd fit in there. You know, I think my height, my skin color, my, darker skin. Probably people think I'm a native. Start talking to me in Portuguese. And I'll just look at them like my dog looks at me. All right, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up now. It's 4:12 p.m. Pacific time. We've been live for 3 hours and 13 minutes. We have 717 people watching live, 718 people watching live all around the world. And thank you so much. I'm sorry to abandon you, but there's nothing to see here. Move along. I'm waiting for a download to complete. Now it says 4 hours. Let's see if I can get Far Cry to install. And then Mitch is back over tomorrow so we can continue filming the interactive build. I'll try to find some time Friday to follow up with this. And to get those customer systems built that are patiently waiting for me. Make Christoph Esch, make this computer great again. Well, here's the problem. It was never great. It's been having this problem since day one, but that was funny. But I won't leave you guys hanging on this. Whatever ends up, I will definitely do a follow-up before I ship it back. No worries there. But there will be a continuation to this video, and it will appear there'll be 20 seconds of black after I end the video. And the reason for that is, and that's why in the interactive build, you always have 20 seconds from the time the link appears. YouTube only allows you to add those links within the last 20 seconds or less, but you can't put them any sooner than that. And so I will purposely leave 20 seconds of black once I wrap this up so that when I do the update to this, I can add the video to it. So anybody watching it for the first time, when they reach this point, skip forward to the end and there'll be a link to click on and take you to the continuation. So thinking ahead. All right, guys, for all the contributions, thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate it. For all of your kind words and support, I really appreciate it. For the moderators, keeping everything civil in the chat room and keeping control of the trolls so that I'm not needlessly distracted from selfish jerks. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'll see you all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.